Well, hello and welcome to episode 464 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I am Carlos, and in this week's packed show, a jet bridge has a fight with a dreamliner door, an American decides Ryanair's windows are his, and one airline asks passengers to get off as they are too heavy. In the military news this week, it's not just commercial airliners that can fly long distances, and we have a look at what one manufacturer is hoping to do this year at RIAT. Plus, we have the book giveaway and loads more in this very, very busy show this evening. So joining me across the village in a very damp, wet and not so warm this week, but I bet it's still warm in the PTUK Master Suite studios, it is Matt Smith.
Actually, it's a normal temperature in here at the moment. What have we got? We have 19 at the moment. It's really quite pleasant.
Yeah, it's freezing.
Make a change, doesn't it?
It does make a change. Yeah, we've had some very warm weather, and it seems like someone switched off the summertime now.
Yeah,
we're back to mind you, we're back to the kind of weather that Gemma loves, because it means that she has got to go and water the garden.
Right, okay, yeah, that's true. Actually, I've got a reprieve because Mum's away in Ireland at the moment, and so that means I've got a reprieve on watering the garden, thank goodness, I'm pleased to say.
Yes, but I have been told, I've been given strict orders to keep an eye on the hanging baskets and the tomato plants.
Oh, I see. Is she not at home then?
No, she's gone away for a girly weekend.
What?
To the glorious Cambridge.
Oh, that's classy. Oh, that's very classy.
Well, you know what she's like.
True, yes. What do you think about Cambridge, Nev?
Oh, yeah, I like it. It's one of my favourite cities.
Me too, actually.
Yes, very nice place to walk around. Too many students to my liking, but it is university city.
Can't have everything, can we? No, indeed. Otherwise, it would be perfection, and you'd probably live there. Yeah. Quite.
So, before we say hello to everyone in the YouTube chat room, there is a new programme on the telly box right now, and it's an aviation-based show starring someone who a lot of you will know because he does quite a bit for film and telly and stuff. It's Idris Elba, and this particular programme will be a shock for Matt and Nev, because this particular programme is actually being broadcast on Apple TV. Yes,
wait, whoa,
Apple
what?
TV. And before you ask, I can't go into any detail, but no, I did not subscribe to Apple TV. It's a new series called Hijack, and if you've not already seen it yet, I have watched the first 4 episodes. I think the 5th episode is being released, I think, later this week or next week, I think. But if you've not already seen it, we've got a little quick promo to play for you here, because I have to say, after watching 4 episodes, they've done a good job. So, Matt, if you want to just hit the button.
Would any remaining passengers for flight KA29 please make their way to gate B15?
Good morning, everyone. This is Captain Robin Allen speaking. Flight time today, 6 hours, 54 minutes.
Operation has commenced.
Phones, tablets.
Plane is under control.
You need to see this.
The plane veered, of course.
Someone is calling for help.
Got family? Loved ones? We got one job to do right now. Just get through to them.
I got a message from the plane.
Dad says incident on board.
What exactly does your dad do for a living?
It's difficult to explain.
Sam's the best at handling it.
Handling what?
The negotiation.
There are 200 people on this flight. If they try something, and then this plane goes down, I don't get home to my family. Let me make you an offer.
I've been handed demands.
If it's all going wrong in the first hour, imagine the next 6. We need to get a message to the whole plane. We just need to be ready. There's other stuff going down.
5 passengers on that plane do not exist.
It's a network running all across Europe.
To them, we're an incoming missile.
It's either us or them. And I can tell you, it's not going to be us.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Are BA going to be showing that on their Fear of Flying course, do you think? Probably not.
And I did have my critique hat on when I started watching.
I bet you did. I bet you were picking holes in it left, right, and centre, weren't you?
Do you know what, Matt? I've got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Apart from a few CRM things which were a little bit off.
Sorry, explain.
Crew resource management kind of things. Some of the things that they said on the flight deck were a little bit
right. Okay.
Not quite with it, but visually and I know because I read up on the film before this, on the series before this was released, they actually did use an actual real A330 to do the filming in with the flight deck and everything. It's been done. It's been done well.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. It's probably the best one that I've seen for a number of years, which involves, an airliner. So
okay.
If you've not already seen it, it's on Apple TV. And I know a few people in the chat room have said they might have a look. Dirk said he's got 3 months Apple TV for free, so that might be an excuse for you to
absolutely.
But it's good. It's good. Idris is a fantastic actor. I do like Idris quite a bit of his acting. But yeah, it's worth a watch. Snakes on a plane. I know.
yeah. Captain Cruise is saying for some reasons they'll never show these on board aircraft like snakes on a plane. Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Yeah. Although Carlos, I wouldn't be at all surprised because I know some of these systems do actually have is it like crash investigation programs on some of them, don't they? Yeah. And you have watched them on you weirdo.
I have them on my tablet. No, all jokes aside, it's a really good series and well worth a watch. And like I said, I'm waiting for the next episode 5 to come out, hopefully soon, very soon. It's I think it's an 8-part series. This program is
okay.
Worth a watch, if you get a chance.
Sounds good.
Going to say hello to everyone in the chat room this evening. Let's start at the top of the list. Dirk S, hello to you. We've got Mazouz, who's in there, our local listener, Mazouz. Welcome to you. Jenny, she's in a very hot part of Europe. Logan Lynch, hello to you. We've got Hobby Time, hello to you. Main man Micah, Uncle Micah's in there as well. He says it's 26 degrees Celsius where he is. Nick's in there as well. Hello to you, Nick. And Kieran O'Neill, he's coming from a very rainy Northern Ireland. Captain Cruz, hello to you. Captain Ridiculous Wits, wouldn't be the chat room without him in there this week. Arnie's in there as well. Hello to you, Arnie. And Neville Bounds is also in there as well. He's wielding the boot spanner of doom, just in case any bots kick off tonight. But don't forget, if you're listening to our voices on the audio show, check us out on YouTube. Just look for us, Plain Talking UK. And also hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified when Matt's pressing the live button. And then you can join us on YouTube and our fantastic chat room because they are all amazing. So it's well worth a stop.
Neil Braden has joined as well. Haven't heard from Neil for ages.
Oh, hello, Neil.
So hope you're well, Neil. Nice to have you on board.
Good to see you in there, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us on this Friday evening. Just coming up to 7:10 this evening. So we've got loads to get through, including the commercial news. So if all the team are ready.
Yes, he says frantically. Yes, he's ready. Yes.
He's ready.
Yes. Do it.
Beer in hand.
Turn on the seatbelt light. Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
So the first story for this week comes to us from simpleflying.com. Must admit, when I saw the pictures on social media this week, did strike me as being rather amusing to see an aircraft door laying on the underneath the aircraft as opposed to being attached to the aircraft. An American Airlines 787 has been damaged this week at Dublin Airport. Images shared on social media show a jet bridge attached to the aircraft that appears to have collapsed, ripping the second left door off in the process. The aircraft were preparing to depart for Philadelphia in the US, and jet bridges, as we all know, are complex pieces of equipment able to move in a multitude of directions, including up and down. And as a result, plenty of training is required to use these from members of staff. However, like many complex pieces of machinery, they are able to malfunction, which appears to be the case with this. November 812 Alpha Alpha is a 7-year-old 787-8 Dreamliner operated by American Airlines. The aircraft landed in Dublin from Chicago as a 208. The aircraft was due to only spend a few hours on the ground in the Irish capital, but now looks like the aircraft won't be flying anywhere soon. So photos shared on social media show the Aer Lingus branded jet bridge low to the ground next to the 787. It's also notable that there is a hole in the fuselage door, but no door hanging next to the entrance, as is normal when opened. Instead, the door can be seen laying on the ground underneath the aircraft. Social media photos also showed the incident. The incident was attended by at least 3 heavy-duty fire and rescue vehicles and a 4th lighter vehicle as well. So, what happened here?
Like I say, do we have any indication as to the cause of this? I mean, you're saying it's because it's sort of indicated that the bridge, the air bridge, malfunctioned, but did it? Or...
Well, I know they're operated on like a pneumatic system, aren't they? And if you look at the jet bridges, they've got like a joystick kind of thing which you can use to maneuver the.
Yes, but did it malfunction, or did somebody have the control stick upside down, or like?
I just imagine someone sort of leaning on the control panel and going, "Whoop! Oh, sorry," like that or something. Nev, what do you think?
Well, it just makes a nice change from someone not blowing a slide, doesn't it?
Well, that's true. Yeah,
We're actually taking the whole door off this time.
That is certainly the thing.
Yeah.
Dirk S is saying in the chat room, "Sir, you can't park that here." I like that.
I mean, on a day like today, it would be a bit awkward because you've not got no door, and the rain, as we all know, does sort of fall. As a curvature of the aircraft, it would probably fall inside the air. You'd have to put a big old piece of plastic over there, I think.
I mean, I assume that they will have obviously, not evacuated, because I mean it was hardly an emergency. Although I dare say it had a bit of a bump and a knock and a rock and made a blooming horrible noise when it all went terribly wrong. I dare say there was a little bit of panic here and there with those who were on board. I assume people were on board. It wasn't starting its journey. I guess they were unloaded using like air stairs at the rear, I guess.
Yeah, I think the whole thing was that they'd landed. The passengers were obviously getting ready to come off, and obviously, as the story said, the aircraft was due to only be on the ground for a few hours and then get straight back to the US. So, with this aircraft being stuck in, as we said, in Dublin, although I think Dublin, I'm pretty sure Dublin's got a maintenance base there. Yeah. So whether this will be, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, it has to be. It will have to be fixed. At Dublin, it can't exactly just fly over to a Heathrow or somewhere to be fixed. It'll have to be fixed in Dublin.
I mean, sure.
I mean, it's going to cost a few quid. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
But I mean, you're saying that they've got maintenance there. I mean, do they have appropriate maintenance for that particular aircraft?
Yeah, it's a good question, Matt.
I don't know. I mean, they might fly some people in. Perhaps to do that and parts.
Yeah. I mean, I can't help but feel perhaps if this door has fallen off, that it won't necessarily be
It's been ripped off.
Right. I don't know if it'll be, like where do you start in terms of mending the hinges and all this kind of thing? Because if you bend the door, it's a major event, isn't it? Because you've damaged the catch, you've damaged the hanging, the hangers and also the mechanisms, the lot. I mean, that's not going to be a 5-minute fix, is it?
No, I also wonder about the fuselage integrity as well, because of these carbon fibre based aircraft in terms of manufacturing. So there's some things to think about there. I'm not an expert in carbon pathfinder manufacturing. But
other than we all know it's very expensive.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? So that's going to be on the ground for 3 or 4 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll cost a fortune in parking charges, if nothing else.
Oh, God.
Mind you, if it turns out that it was the airport's fault, I guess you could argue that because it wasn't the plane's fault.
True. That is very
as
true.
long as it was parked where it was supposed to be. I mean, that's the only thing that could spoil it. But anyway,
that's
there we
what
go.
Liverpool Victoria Insurance is for. Isn't
Ah,
it?
very good. Yes,
other providers are available.
Of course, always.
Now, moving on swiftly, Nev, you have got the next story, and it's good news for anyone who wants to become a pilot.
Yeah, well, we're always talking about on the show about trying to get people through the system again, whether it's cabin crew or whether it's pilots. And on pilotcareersnews.com, it says that a major announcement made at Pilot Careers Live North on the 8th of July in Manchester. BA has revealed its ambitious new recruitment plans for eligible trainee pilots and military flight crews. Set to launch on Friday the 14th, that's today. It's a British Airways Whitetail recruitment programme in partnership with approved training organisations, Skyborne, L3 Harris, Leading Edge Aviation, FTE Jerez and CAE. BA is stepping up efforts to recruit and train pilots of the future. The programme involves a process where trainee pilots will be tagged by BA as potential candidates suitable for a career with the airline. Eligibility for the Whitetail recruitment programme extends to any students enrolled in courses with the partnering ATOs, regardless of whether they're pursuing modular or integrated training paths. To qualify, students must have completed their air transport pilot licence theory exams. Provided that students meet the stringent entry criteria laid out by British Airways, they will receive conditional job offers from the airline. This criteria includes an average of 85% on ground school exams, no more than 3 exam retakes, only 1 allowed course re-enrolment, and a first series pass in commercial pilot licence and instrument rating. Applicants must hold an APS MCC certification and hold their UK Part FCL licence. And this opportunity is open to anyone who completed their training from the 1st of January 2020 onwards. So that's good, isn't it? Good to see that, although the bar is being set quite high there, as always, we've got a shortage of pilots. So planning for the future.
Definitely. Try and get a few more people. I wonder how many airlines are genuinely sort of regretting, like, not keeping their pilots on the books a bit longer, in like COVID times and all that kind of thing. I bet there must be some regretted decisions in there somewhere, especially.
Oh, there's plenty. I think, and bearing in mind that back in the day, not that many years ago, the mandatory retirement age at British Airways was 55. So that meant that people were going out of the system very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think still is the case that people decided. We know 1 or 2 people ourselves that took early retirement because of the long haul sectors they were running before the actual retirement age. Again, so that puts more pressure on the incoming student pilots, doesn't it?
Indeed.
I know through talking to a very good friend of ours, who Matt, and Nev knows as well of the show, that he's just been down the last few weeks to BA for a chat about piloting, and it is very, very stringent. The bits and pieces they require is very, very much a difficult process to go through, I think is what he said. So,
yeah, I bet. I don't doubt that for a minute.
So, moving on, Matt, you have got the next story, and it's a Ryanair story. I know it's story number 3. We normally have it on number 2, but Matt, it's a Ryanair story, and I have to say, when I saw the video online, I wasn't expecting it to be, how do I put this, a non-European or UK passenger.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. So we'll, first of all, you say you've seen it. Are we all right for language on this, by the way? Or do I need to run?
Are.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Fine,
yeah. Lovely. Okay. All right then. So, and this is also making me nervous because my mum went with Ryanair to Belfast today. So I hope she had a trouble-free flight.
She'll be in charge of the flight.
No. No. My mum would absolutely start it. That's the bit that I'm worried about. Bless her. Anyway, wild video captures American and Brit exchanging blows on a Ryanair flight. I can't imagine an American flying Ryanair. I feel like that would be offensive in some way. Anyway, 2 passengers were captured in a shocking video swinging at each other on a Ryanair flight after one allegedly refused to let the other get to his window seat. The fisticuffs erupted on the July 3rd flight from Malta to London Stansted, according to News Flare. The shorter guy on the left is American and had the window seat. The taller man on the right, with a cap on, is British and had the aisle seat. Passenger Neil Modwadia, who recorded the fight, told the outlet the British man wouldn't let the American man pass through to get to his window seat, and then some words and swears were exchanged. That's why I'm nervous about the language. Before a scuffle broke out, he said. Flight attendants and fellow passengers quickly intervened and separated the 2 combatants. We'll never get home, one person is heard saying during the fracas. In a statement, Ryanair said 2 passengers on its flight from Malta to Stansted on the 3rd of July became disruptive ahead of takeoff. Cabin crew diffused the situation before the aircraft departed safely for Stansted following a minor delay. Modwadia said that the fight was actually delayed by 2 hours, leaving everyone extremely annoyed. So here we go then. Here's the video. Oh, I say, it's a bit brutal, isn't it?
I know. It's
Oh, it's proper getting stuck in. Well, I say. Look, it's the whoa, what are you doing?
I love that someone says, stop or we'll never get away.
Yeah. There's some truth in that, though, isn't it? Because depending on how much it is. Anyway, enough of that. I'm bored of that already. It's just like
Nev is sitting there going
furious. He is. You're absolutely furious, aren't you, Nev?
I've got to go on this aircraft.
This Ryanair thing.
Me, Carlos.
Yes.
As long as you two promise not to have a fight before you I don't want you two fighting over who.
Perhaps you could have a bit of a mock argument, just for a bit of a laugh, and then I could get banned from flying with the airline permanently.
Oh, perhaps we should try. Sorry, are you sitting in 1A?
I was going to say, that's the only fight that would break out between you two, is if Carlos was sitting in seat 1A. He would be absolutely...
it would
be fuming. Yeah, absolutely, indeed. Yeah, I wasn't aware that there was a business class on Ryanair.
Oh, blimey.
I think business class is the aisle seat, isn't it? The one near the emergency exits.
I tried to find out if these people were either booted off the aircraft or whether they just got a stern telling off, but I couldn't find out any details anywhere. So whether they actually took these 2 people off and said, right, off you go and don't bother coming back, I don't know, because as far as I'm concerned, that was a damn good fight.
They should have been offloaded. I don't understand why they've been allowed to travel. So,
but that generates a lot of paperwork for Ryanair, isn't it, if that happens? So, I mean, just saying.
Well, jail in Malta would be the perfect antidote, Mark Priestley says.
Well, true that.
So I've not been in one, but I have personally seen one in Malta.
Oh, have you? Yeah.
And they are a non-air conditioned, very nice place to be.
Did you have a night at Her Majesty's pleasure then? Did you?
Not in Malta, no. No, I was lucky enough many years ago to have a quick tour around one of the local village police stations. Where they had a 2-cell jail, and it was blooming hot.
Was it because you were looking for a night at Her Majesty's pleasure?
No, I didn't want to stay there. I didn't want to stay there. Right. As much as I'm from Malta, I don't want to go to jail.
Love that. Neil Braden says 30 seconds later they were selling scratch cards. Oh, we have the best audience, don't we?
I know.
Love it.
Moving on swiftly to the next story. And another brilliant story, this one I found this week. This amused me highly. I even had to read this on 2 or 3 different sites to find out if it was a joke. But Times of India, this one came from. And the headline, Airline asks 19 passengers to get off a flight because it was too heavy to take off. Yes, you heard me correctly. In a surprising incident, a UK airline, being EasyJet, yes, you heard me correctly, requested some of its passengers to descend from a flight that was deemed too heavy to take off. The incident gained attention on social media after a witness passenger shared a video recording of the pilot's announcement. And according to The Independent, on July the 5th, the flight was scheduled to depart from airport in Spain at approximately 9:45 in the evening. However, due to unfavourable weather conditions and the aircraft exceeding its weight limit, the departure was delayed until 11:30 p.m. Subsequently, several passengers were asked to voluntarily leave the flight to reduce the weight and enable it to take off. In the passenger's video, the pilot expresses gratitude to all the air passengers for their presence and acknowledges the heavy weight of the aircraft, attributing to the high number of passengers. The captain also explains that the runway is too short for takeoff and the winds are unfavourable in Lanzarote, rendering the aircraft too heavy for flight. To address the issue, the captain announces a solution proposed by the operations team to reduce the weight of the aircraft. Now, I'd be interested to hear what you two guys think of this. To incentivise passengers, he offers, on behalf of the airline, EasyJet, €500 to each passenger who chooses to forgo the journey to Liverpool on that particular night. The captain also seeked 20 volunteers for this daring task. Within 2 hours, approximately 19 passengers willingly volunteered, I'm not surprised, to leave the flight, and an EasyJet spokesperson confirmed that EZY3364 from Lanzarote to Liverpool on the previous evening experienced a voluntary rebooking due to the aircraft exceeding weight limits for the prevailing weather conditions. The spokesperson also emphasised that such procedures are standard and implemented for safety reasons across all airlines, not just EasyJet. Additionally, the volunteers were provided with compensation under regulations, and the spokesperson concluded by affirming that the airline prioritised the safety of both passengers and crew. Now, you bought your ticket on EasyJet, which most people buy their tickets as a standalone item. There are some people who do the package deals with EasyJet. But if you were buying a ticket to Lanzarote, I did have a quick little look online, and the price of a return flight to Lanzarote at the moment is in and around anywhere from £260 to about £300 sterling.
Well, if you think about it, a family of four, that could be quite valuable, couldn't it? The runway length at Lanzarote isn't that long, by the way, 7,874 feet or 2,400 metres. So that's not huge. No. That's about the same as Luton, I think, something like that. Bearing in mind Stansted is 10,000 feet and Heathrow is 12,000 and a bit. Okay. So it gives you an idea. So with high temperatures and unfavourable wind conditions, so the runway orientation is runway 21 and 03. So it depends on obviously the direction of the wind. And yeah, that happens reasonably regularly, I would say. It's happened to me once before, where we were asked to, where were we going from? Gothenburg, I think it was. Not quite the same circumstances, but I was offered €300 to take a flight via Manchester, or an alternative flight, which was leaving later that day. No, this can happen, can't it? Especially when you're going down to the Canary Islands, where it's quite warm this time of year, and with relatively short runways. Yeah.
So, Nev, forgive my naivety here. Again, this is why I'm here. Let's be honest. So, so it's €300 is what they gave you for the for your payment, if you like, for agreeing to take a. Do you have to find an alternative flight yourself, or do they help you rebook on a later flight?
They booked it for me. They said, "Would you like to go on the flight tonight via Manchester back to Heathrow?" So I did that. They booked it all for me, and I think I got the money within a week.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
See, I mean, for me, it's like if they said to you, like, we've got a flight for you tomorrow, then I'd be absolutely... You think, well, as long as I brought my work laptop with me so that I can work, Because usually most people are coming home just in time to go back to work, aren't they? I mean, you don't normally come back and do the sensible thing and have a couple of days before you do. So you're sort of trying to fly back in that. So as long as I got my work laptop with me so I could work from the airport, if you see what I mean, or somewhere like that, then you'd be like, yeah, absolutely fine. I'll have the 500 quid or 300 euros or whatever. And I can't.
Bad compensation.
Oh, I think it's all right.
Yeah.
I think it's all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so. But yeah,
I if you get a chance, I think the link was on the link for this story, but I didn't get a chance to download it for Matt. But if you get a chance to listen on the story to the PA, because it is on social media, the PA that the pilot gave.
Okay.
I thought the pilot gave an incredibly detailed and very apologetic PA that he actually went into detail as to why the aircraft could not take off with the weight they had on board in regards to the heat, weather and the wind and stuff.
But don't you think that's so important, though? Don't you think that's so important?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to think that all pilots would do that. Do you know what I mean? Because we're not idiots, are we? And unless there's a very good reason why, I can understand why there might be a scenario where perhaps you don't want to alarm people or worry people. But actually, I mean, we're all grown-ups, aren't we? So explaining the reason why you've got to do this is because you want to, safety is paramount. I know it's a terrible inconvenience, but we are going to give you all this money. I mean, surely that's the right thing to do, Nev, isn't it?
Yeah, also he did the announcement from the cabin, so he was at the 1L door on the cabin crew PA, and that's the way to do it. So
not hiding in his cockpit.
Actually see the fella or lady doing the PA makes a huge difference. And Al's spoken about this many times before. You can get everybody on board, figuratively speaking, by
all on the same page. Yeah.
It being visible. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, as you say, not hiding in the cockpit to do it. I think because that's a bit of a cop out almost, isn't it? You're almost giving the problem to the cabin crew if you do it like that, aren't you?
Yeah.
I did reach out to a couple of very good friends of ours of the show who both fly in Europe for other carriers.
Yeah.
And they did say that this does happen every so often. It's not a one-off. It does happen. Not every day, but it does happen reasonably frequently.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well,
and it is to do with the weather.
It is. Well, and it's a safety thing at the end of the day, isn't it? It's like, so we can still make our flight. The majority of people can make it, but here, have a load of money and go on a different flight. I think, all right, okay.
I think all of us pilots and all the geeks and everyone who watches this show will know that hot and humid weather does.
You're not saying it right, Carlos, especially when you're from Norfolk.
Yes, well, hot and moist weather.
No. Humid. Humid.
Hot and humid weather.
You got to channel your inner Jim Bacon. It's humid.
Play quite a part in aircraft operations when it's taking off on hot and humid weather.
Indeed.
It's not the best. I mean, you can see it here at Beccles when it's a hot day, and the parachute plane, even the Cessna Caravan it doesn't struggle, but it's not as frisky as it would be in cooler climes, as to say.
Indeed.
But, anyway, Matt, now your next story is another one I found this week, which I found quite amusing, and I'd be interested to see what Nev makes of this.
Oh, okay. Brace yourself. Here we go then. So we're off to The Guardian for this story, and the headline is United flight to Amsterdam reportedly diverted to Chicago over meal choice. Okay, it's an unusual headline, isn't it? A United Airlines flight heading from Houston to Amsterdam was diverted to Chicago after an unruly business class passenger interrupted the flight, reportedly because his first meal choice was unavailable. The flight took off at 4:20 p.m. local time in Houston on Sunday and was in Chicago airspace 2 hours into the flight. Flight tracking website Flight Radar 24 showed that the plane circled Chicago's O'Hare Airport as it had to use up fuel known as dumping fuel, or it would have been too heavy to land. In a statement to The Guardian, United said, United Flight 20 from George Bush Intercontinental Airport to Amsterdam diverted to O'Hare International Airport and landed safely following a passenger disturbance. Law enforcement met the aircraft at the gate and escorted the passenger off the plane. The aircraft then continued to Amsterdam. According to Flight Radar 24, the flight ended up landing just over 3 hours after its scheduled arrival, touching down at around about 12:30 p.m. local time in Amsterdam. The typical total flight for the trip is 9 hours and 30 minutes. While it is unclear exactly what meal the unruly passenger had gotten upset over, business class passengers on United are typically offered a full 3-course meal in addition to more food throughout the flight. The Federal Aviation Administration can impose fines on passengers for unruly behaviour up to $37,000 for each violation, with each incident having the potential for multiple violations. Passengers are also subject to being prosecuted on criminal charges. Well, Nev.
I mean, when I flew out in May to the States, and I pre-ordered my food on American in business class. I pre-ordered the roast chicken, which they didn't have, so I opted in the end for salmon.
Right.
But I couldn't care less. I would have had whatever. I don't care. It's nice food at the end of the day. I really couldn't care less. I certainly would get upset and kick off on the flight.
Nev seems very unimpressed by all this.
Well,
I know.
The trouble is the sense of entitlement from some business class and first class passengers leaves me stunned. Really.
I mean, I guess their argument would be is that they've paid over the odds, and you quite often hear this argument, don't you? Where, well, I virtually paid for this whole flight.
I don't. No. I know you're trying to be a bit cheeky and being that.
I'm playing devil's advocate. You know me. Yes. I'll stop my silliness immediately.
There's no room for that argument in this conversation.
No, fair enough.
People need to behave themselves, and to cause a diversion or disruption of the flight is not on, regardless of.
I would like to think. I know it said in the story here that they can be fined and and penalties and all that kind of thing. But I would like to think, when you get if there's been an incident, say here in the UK, and you're expected, and the courts give you a fine, compensation, and you have to pay for court costs and all that kind of thing. I seriously hope that this individual, with all his money, who thinks he's entitled, etc., ended up paying for that diversion.
See,
the compensation. I mean, I guess they would they have got compensation for the 3-hour day delay? I don't know quite what the rules are in the States.
Is it 3 or 4 hours?
More might be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it doesn't seem
there alcohol involved? That's the question.
Well, I mean, maybe. Who knows? Never mind.
Arnie says in the chat room, United Airlines cabin crew are unable to defuse the situation. No surprise.
No, unlike Ryanair, apparently. I mean, to be honest with you, that video we were watching earlier, I wouldn't say that the situation had been diffused. I think they just punched the energy out of each other and then moved on. But there we go. That's just
So moving on to the next story, we're gonna stick with food. With the next story, and Nev, it's a BA story, and I'm quite liking the sound of this.
Yeah, very much so. It's on the traveldailymedia.com. It says that British Airways is introducing holiday treats for its customers to enjoy this summer, including refreshing ice cream, pre-takeoff bubbles in World Traveller Plus, seasonal menus, and brand new in-flight entertainment as part of its ongoing commitment to customers. The airline is offering complimentary ice cream on daytime flights departing from London Heathrow and London Gatwick before 5 p.m. UK time, partnering with fellow British brand Jude's to offer a range of flavours from very vanilla, strawberry and cream, truly chocolate and salted caramel. The treats, produced less than 60 miles from Heathrow in Hampshire, will be available for customers to enjoy over the coming months when travelling in World Traveller Plus and World Traveller cabins. BA is also reintroducing sparkling wine in its World Traveller Plus cabin from mid-July as part of its pre-takeoff drink offering. Those travelling in Club World can savour a unique glass of British bubbles during their flight with the Balfour Rosé de Noir, made only from red grapes. This lighter rosé English sparkling wine is an exclusive blend for British Airways, making it the perfect tipple ahead of summer travels. The airline is also introducing a rosé blend for the first time in its first cabin. Whispering Angel's big brother, Rock Angel, is making an appearance on board with more structure and oaky flavours than its younger sibling. Customers travelling on short-haul flights can also get a taste of Chateau d'Eclat creations, as Whispering Angel's Provence Rosé is now available to pre-purchase through the airline's newly branded High Life Cafe, giving customers the option to taste a hint of summer, whether they are travelling to Europe or further afield. Customers can also enjoy a range of summer-inspired menus across its cabins, available until September. Travellers in first class can choose from lighter dishes, including a classic prawn cocktail, a Grig fillet of Atlantic halibut, and British summer staple, berry bread and butter pudding. Meanwhile, those travelling in World Traveller Plus can delve into a fresh calamarata pasta, followed by a raspberry panna cotta. I want you to get this on Ryanair. Probably not. British Airways Chief Customer Officer Callum Laming said, "We know that so many of our customers have been looking forward to their summer holidays, so we've added these extra touches in time for summer to make their trips even more special." Well, let's hope we don't get any of the proposed strikes at Gatwick.
Indeed.
Talking about today, that sounds all very delicious, isn't it? I might have to.
I mean, it's a step up from the panini, certainly, isn't it?
Well, yeah, certainly, yeah.
You say
I like their ice creams.
You say, Nev, being the most well-versed traveller out of the team, pretty much as such here in the UK, that the food offerings on board airlines now, especially with BA, have improved immensely over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get complaints, but I think the quality of airline food on most airlines is not bad at all. That the catering facilities that they use at the base airports, that they churn out some pretty nice stuff. So it's not to everybody's liking all of the time, and you do get the odd complaint from time to time. But I must say, I'm pretty impressed with most of it.
Even I'm impressed by Ryanair's cheese and ham panini, because it is really nice. It is really nice. I mean, I would love to be able to try the menu that you just reeled off, Nev. Nothing else, because I am partial to a nice rosé. But nice. It's Mark Priestley saying that looks amazing. If it's good enough for Nev, then it's definitely good enough for me. Well, there you go, Nev. There's praise indeed.
I love Neil Braden's comment earlier on where he says, "Life was much easier when airlines just served peanuts."
Surely no.
Do you remember years ago? And most of the airlines used to do, I know Air 2000 did, and Britannia used to as well. You used to get those little tiny bags of roasted peanuts that but there was never enough. You always wanted like another 3 or 4 bags, but there was never quite enough in a bag. But I don't think there's many airlines that actually serve bags of peanuts up on board.
Well, no, because of the allergy situation, isn't it? That's why.
But we're going to move away from food now. We've done the food part of the show. I'm feeling hungry now. Do you know what? When you said about that bread and butter pudding, Matt.
No, thanks. No, you're all right, thanks. I can't bear bread and butter pudding.
Berry bread and butter pudding. Oh my God.
No.
Anyway,
rhubarb crumble. That's the way forward.
Yes, and custard.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
Anyway, NewYorkPost.com. Man wanted on drug charges leaps from plane onto tarmac in Minnesota. So a man wanted on drug charges leapt off a Sun Country flight in an attempt to escape officers waiting for him at the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, police said. Jeremiah Raymond Hoskins, 44, of New Brighton, was aboard Flight 346 arriving from Orlando on Sunday night when he found that officers were waiting to arrest him. In a last-ditch effort to flee, Hoskins decided to pop open the emergency exit as other passengers were getting off the flight at around 11:15 p.m. He then jumped onto the tarmac below, evading officers at the Metropolitan Airports Commission also said in a statement. The man was spotted running across the tarmac and towards Terminal 2 at the airport. Hoskins was arrested just half an hour later when the airport employees found him hiding inside a food service truck. Oh, blimey, we got back to food again.
Me.
Police said. Airport police noted that they had been alerted that Hoskins was arriving in Minneapolis on Sunday with the suspect wanted for drug charges out of Wright County in Minnesota. Hoskins was previously arrested on a third-degree controlled substance charge back in September the 19th, 2002, according to the Wright County Sheriff's Department. Well, I suppose it's one way of trying to get away with something, but although I don't think I'd be wanting to jump out of even a 737 at that, because it is, it is a few feet from the wing to the ground.
Oh yeah.
It? So
yeah,
it wouldn't be my first choice of getting off an aircraft, not through an emergency exit door, but yes, only in America. Eh? Anyway, moving swiftly on, to another story of crime and excitement. Nev, what's going on in Nigeria?
We've got a selection of stuff this evening, haven't we? On the BBC News website, it says thieves have stolen the lighting system.
What?
For one of the runways at Nigeria's busiest airport, just months after it was installed. An airport authority spokesman has confirmed to the BBC. An investigation has now been launched to arrest the criminals and recover what's missing. Yakubu Funtua added. It's not clear when the system was taken from the Murtala Muhammad International Airport in Lagos, but local media reported that airport workers were involved in the theft. The ground lights were installed in November, ending years of after-dusk restrictions on landing on that wing of the airport. Domestic carriers were forced to divert to the international section and taxi about 4 kilometres back to the right terminal, which caused flight disruptions. Mr. Funtua told the BBC that the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria will block all loopholes to prevent future occurrence. The criminals took advantage of the fact that the runway had been closed for months for maintenance to take the lighting system, an unnamed source told Nigeria's Punch newspaper. The source blamed a syndicate of workers at the airport, along with accomplices from outside, for a series of thefts.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was these people at all. I think Carlos was adding to his collection of aircraft memorabilia. That's what I think it was. I think he's a.
Well, I think all they've got to do is find out the addresses of these people and drive round to their house and see if they've got the runway light outside their front door or something.
Yeah. I would recommend not coming to Castle Stebbings, because I think there might be one or two in his cupboard there.
I mean, aircraft pieces. I mean, obviously, you guys know I've got various pieces of aircraft around.
No, do you?
But who the hell wants to steal pieces of an airport?
I mean, an airport light would be quite cool.
Yeah, but it runs on. I mean, that would probably be three-phase.
Yeah, but the lights. No, not the lighting. It wouldn't be on three. No. No. It might. The distribution board might be fed with three-phase, but it'll still be a single cable or whatever that goes out to it. I assume they're probably just 240.
I mean, what are they going to use it for? Oh, what's that, darling? You'd like some new patio lighting? Oh, I know where we can get some patio lighting, dear. There's a runway just over there. We'll go and have some of those.
Carlos, above my door, I've got an exit sign from a 747. There's many an argument that there's absolutely no need for me to have one of those there, let alone creating a USB device so that I could power it up.
I guess says in the chat room that would look nice in the driveway. Yeah, I suppose it would. Would make some interesting. Imagine that actually, Nev, outside Chateau Nev, the way your driveway is there, to have those each side of your driveway.
Nev, pay no attention to him. He's just deflecting the focus from him having stolen them. That's what's happening.
Yeah, I don't want to be implicated in any of this.
No, absolutely not.
Anyway, next week's prize will be... anyway, moving swiftly on.
Okay,
lovely. Matt, you've got the next... Now, this is another story that broke this week, and the video, I know Matt's got the video to this, is just bizarre.
Okay, all right then. Carlos has forgotten the memo where if it's videos or photographs, it's challenging for me to be able to play them. But anyway, there we go. It's just like, because I'm a bloke, you see, I can't do two things at once. This is the issue. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, aerotime.aero is the website, and the headline is pilot of vintage Antonov AN2 crashes into trees trying to avoid traffic. The pilot of a 40-year-old Russian-made Antonov AN2 claims he crashed into trees shortly after taking off to avoid road traffic. The privately owned Antonov aircraft took off from a field at Vangarda in Sweden on the 8th of July 2023 with 4 passengers on board, but quickly ran into trouble as the plane swerved to the left once in flight. Footage of the incident showed the vintage plane crashing into the top of a forest thicket as the pilot tried to climb high enough to avoid the trees. The pilot told STV News in Sweden that he did not know what caused the crash and that before takeoff everything looked normal. We tested the engine and everything and then it wouldn't start, the pilot said. According to the pilot, who has flown the type of aircraft for more than 30 years, it is not possible to fly the plane out towards a nearby road as there was traffic there. None of the 5 people who travelled on the plane required hospital treatment, and the incident is being investigated by the Sweden's aviation authorities. Now we will pick off the wings and take it home this week, the pilot added. The aircraft registered Sierra Echo Kilo Charlie Echo was first flown back in 1981. So we'll take a quick look then at this video that Carlos has shared with us. It's a more normal looking sort of a big Cessna.
It's a very big
Cessna. Yeah, I know, but I had visions of like a jumbo jet, or because I associate the Antonov with that massive thing, Anyway, here we go. Here's the video.
Have you seen this, Ned?
Yeah, I did, yes.
Yeah. So it's a grass strip then that it's taking off from?
Honestly, you can tell by at least now that things aren't going very well.
Oh, hello. That ain't right, is it?
Yes.
Definitely subpar. It just didn't seem to lift, did it? It just didn't.
You could get out and walk faster than that aircraft was going along there. It just didn't seem to be moving very swiftly.
Yeah, it just, as I say, it just didn't seem to lift, did it? But then, perhaps it's just because there wasn't enough speed. But also, I mean, is it usual to take off with a large aircraft like that to take off on a grass runway?
Well, they are designed. They can use grass strips. The Antonov, that particular, the AN2 was designed to fly out of unprepared, rubbishy strips. But there didn't seem to be much of a length to the strip that he was using there, and to have high trees like that at the end is also not a fantastic thing.
Not ideal
when you're flying. But also, I struggle to see whether the guy got any flaps down for that. For that takeoff, because to me it looked like the aircraft didn't have any flaps selected at all. But I might be wrong. But you can see on the video. But it's Arnie's saying that they forgot to mow the grass.
Yeah, I could say the wheels are pretty. There's lots of things wrong with this video. I'm just running it again for those of you who are watching.
If you look at the, I'm not sure. I'm guessing on the AN2 the flaps are on the top. If you look. To me, there may be one stage of flap selected, if anything. Just doesn't. I mean, thankfully, it was a relatively low speed impact, and obviously the pilot walked away from this. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll buff out.
Yeah.
Anyway,
moving on to the next story. If anyone's flown an AN2, let us know.
Right,
Nev,
okay.
You've got this next one all about Widerøe.
Yes, on simpleflying.com, Norwegian carrier revealed that it will be acquiring Widerøe, a regional airline based in Norway. According to the carrier, the airline will continue to exist as separate carriers. However, passengers will benefit from a more comprehensive network of routes, with the two reportedly having minimal route overlap. The last few years have been incredibly varied for Norwegian. The carrier went from operating connecting flights from the northern and southernmost commercial airports with the transatlantic 787 hop to filing for bankruptcy protection at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. With the airline now focused on short-haul, low-cost operations, it's mounted an impressive return from the dead. Earlier this week, Norwegian announced a fairly significant development. They're going to be purchasing Widerøe, and the regional carrier accounts for around 20% of the Norwegian domestic market and is almost 90 years old. They will acquire Widerøe for a cash consideration of 1.125 billion Norwegian kroner, which is $105 million. The price could be adjusted depending on Widerøe's profitability for the remainder of the year, but the deal is expected to close by the end of this year. However, it is subject to the usual caveats of such a deal, such as regulatory approval from the Norwegian competition authorities. The CEO of Widerøe, Stein Nielsen, had some interesting comments about the deal, pointing out that Norway's air travel tax is particularly high, making perseverance for a small regional airline difficult. It seems not too much will change for passengers, though, and employees and the airlines just yet. The Norwegian was clear that Widerøe would continue to operate as its own company, adding that employees will remain in their existing companies until under existing collective agreements. Widerøe will uphold its existing agreements with other airlines. Just to compare the fleets, according to CH Aviation, Norwegian currently has 89 Boeing 737s split across 2 AOCs. Its Swedish AOC has 13 Boeing 737 MAX 8s and 28 737-800s. 6 of the MAXs are wet leased from the Norwegian AOC. In addition to the 6 MAXs mentioned, the primary Norwegian AOC has 40 more Boeing 737-800s. The fleet of Widerøe, however, is much more different. According to CH Aviation, it consists of 45 -8s of different variations, 6 of which are listed as inactive. The airline operates 3 Embraer E190-E2 aircraft, and 2 ATR 72-500s are also being leased from Nordic regional airlines. That's quite interesting, because actually Norway, being the huge country that it is, does rely heavily on regional operations as well as connecting flights to other parts of Scandinavia. So that's not a bad thing, I would say.
I had to look these guys up, Nev. I'd heard of Widerøe, but didn't really know much
I've known them a
them.
few times back in the day.
Yeah, founded back in 1934. Didn't realise that at all. But yeah, apparently they're one of the largest regional airlines in the Nordic countries.
Yes, they are.
But not flown them, but interesting. Moving on, and back to space for this one. This is kind of an interesting story. For Gizmodo.com, NASA's space shuttle Endeavour will stand tall once more. The space shuttle is going to look launch ready again. Once again, although this time the retired spacecraft won't be firing any engines. The California Science Center is ready to kick off a 6-month-long process to stack the components of the space shuttle into a vertical launch position such that it can go on display at the future Samuel Oshon Air and Space Center, which is currently under construction, and the Science Center announced on Thursday. The museum Go for Stack process is set to begin on July the 20th, which marks a Space Exploration Day. The display will include the Endeavour orbiter, which embarked on its first mission with the Space Shuttle program back in 1992. The rocket's solid boosters and external tank, once fully stacked, the 20-story tall vertical display will be the only ready-for-launch space shuttle system in the world in terms of its staging and appearance. Endeavour will be the star attraction at the Samuel Oschin Air and Space Centre, and a launch pad for creativity and innovation that will inspire future generations of scientists, engineers and explorers, Jeff Rudolph, President and CEO of the California Science Center, said in a statement. Getting the space shuttle pieces stacked on top of one another is not going to be an easy feat, and it's going to be the first time it's ever been done outside of NASA's facility, according to the California Space Center. The first part of the process involves installing the rocket's aft skirts, a pair of skirt-shaped bottom segments that form the base of the solid rocket boosters. The solid rocket motors will be stacked on top of the aft skirts to form the solid rocket boosters, and the shuttle's external tank, ET-94, will then be lifted into place, followed by the Endeavour orbiter, which will be lifted by a large crane and connected to the rest of the rocket stack. When it's all done, the full stack of the Space Shuttle launch system will stand 200 feet, or 61 metres tall, becoming the main attraction around the Air and Space Center building where it's going to be constructed. Endeavour has been on display at the California Science Center for the past 11 years, albeit laying horizontally rather than standing straight, as thought it will be ready to soar through the skies once more. NASA Space Shuttle Endeavour landed for the final time back in June in 2011 at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, following a 16-day mission to the ISS. Following that landing, the only one other shuttle mission took place, and that was Atlantis, the STS-135 mission, marking the end of NASA's 30-year-long shuttle era, which began back in 1981. Now, I haven't seen these. I'd love to. That's one of the places I'd love to go. Nev, have you had a chance to go and see one of the shuttles? Or
no, I haven't. No, but yeah, it sounds interesting, doesn't it? So it sounds like a great display area there.
It's one of those things that used to used to make TV. All the TV shows and the shows would always show these shuttles, you know, and it's we miss it. I think we do miss it, seeing these on TV. But you love your space, don't you, Matt?
I do. One of my favourite exhibits, actually, at the Science Museum in London is where they've got the Apollo. I can't remember which missions it was, but they've got one of the actual Apollo craft there, haven't they? But which is just amazing. It's kind of frightening how simple they look. You know, it's. And at one time they were still operating on the DX266 chipset, weren't they? If I remember correctly, and because I think I said before I'd ended up giving away. I had a box of 10 of them that ended up going to the States because they were still, you know, because it was tried and tested basically. You know, everything was, you know, like every time they added new functions, it was coded so it would work on that older chipset, but. Yeah, anyway, there we go.
Old tech, but it works.
Yeah, I mean, I dare say they've moved on now, but I suppose it's one of those, isn't it? It's just sort of trying to sort out the bits and pieces.
Now, Nev, you have got an update for the last part of the commercial news this week. It's an update on misbehaviour.
Well, it seems to be the theme, doesn't it, this week? We've got a couple of items here just to round off. One of them on WSVN.com, where it says 3 TSA agents arrested accused of stealing cash from travellers at Miami Airport. And they've been arrested on fraud charges. According to the investigators, they worked together to steal cash from passengers' purses and bags whilst they were being screened at the airport on June the 29th. The agents were removed after a TSA employee followed up on a complaint, watched surveillance video and shared findings with the police, who took immediate action and placed them under arrest on Thursday. In a statement, a TSA spokesman wrote, the Transport Security Administration holds its transportation security officers to the highest professional and ethical standards and has no tolerance for misconduct in the workplace. We actively and aggressively investigated these allegations of misconduct and presented our findings to the police and are working closely with them. Any employee who fails to meet our fundamental ethical standards is held accountable. Quite right so. But another update comes from QCnews.com. Worried that they were going to fail, it says passengers climb up a conveyor belt to retrieve stuck luggage.
Oh.
Delta Airlines passengers who landed in Charlotte on Sunday evening decided that they wouldn't wait for help to come and instead stepped into action to retrieve and pass out luggage trapped in a stuck conveyor belt. The situation, described by passengers as being out of a movie, happened in a baggage claim A at Charlotte Douglas International Airport around 8 p.m. on Sunday of last week. The area is still under construction, with large portions of the ceiling, which includes around the luggage chute, which is still exposed. Passenger Maggie Holmes told Queen City News that when she arrived at baggage claim, the lower belt was operational, but the main chute had stopped. Just a couple of hundred people standing there waiting for their bags. Very much construction going on, she said. We're all just waiting there and everything was going fine, and then everything's flowing. Then maybe 5 to 10 minutes later, everything stops and an alarm is sounding. She and the other passengers said that there were multiple attempts to try and get help from Delta employees in the baggage claim area, but they were unable to find anyone. After several minutes, 4 men climbed up the baggage belt and formed their own delivery line, sending baggage down to passengers. One cell phone video taken by another passenger showed the work the men did, and at moments people began to clap and cheer. Other social media videos have surfaced which shows the moment airport employees and security arrived and began to demand the men come off the equipment. One view showed a passenger and an employee in an argument over the situation, whilst other passengers yelled that no one came to help them in the first place. Delta representatives in the baggage claim area have declined to comment on the situation, and Charlotte Douglas International representatives have also not responded to media inquiries. Well, I'm 50-50 on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think if nothing's happening and there's no one around and the thing is clearly stalled and stuck, then it's not a bad shout. However, of course, were it to start moving again, then people could get injured and...
My issue here, though, is, the story clearly states that the alarm was sounding. What bothers me is, even though there were people there, like, involved in the construction, I guess the people doing the construction, it's not their job, but they must have been able to radio someone who might have been... Do you know what I mean? It's like there was an alarm sounding and nobody did anything about it. That's the bit that I'm most uncomfortable with. So... as you say, and I think, to be fair, the passengers who were climbing up and getting it, I think they had good intentions.
Yes.
They were just trying to sort of get there's loads of people waiting for their luggage. Nothing seems to be happening. It's like, well, I'm quite agile. Let's get going. I do understand, as you say, obviously there is a potential health and safety risk there, because, as you say, if it did suddenly all fire up into life again, then people could get hurt and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, I think I'm with you on this one, Nev. It's just like I can see the reasons why they were being shouted at when security finally arrived, but also it does sound like it took a long time for security to arrive there. So, I mean, by the time they arrived, it was too late.
Yes. Good point. Oh, we've got some breaking news, Justin, actually, from our colleague Nick Codling, who says aircraft in near miss over Bungay following aircrew confusion over runway lights in Avgeek's garden.
True, indeed, absolutely. Always a struggle, always a risk, certainly, absolutely.
You know what? When I get off the show, so I'm going to go and see if I can buy an airport.
I thought you'd been quiet for a few minutes.
Yeah. I thought you were already. I thought it was already happening. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I'm going to be on eBay.
Yeah, he wants a rope like of them now. You see, that's what it is. Oh dear, never mind.
Anyway, before I do go and make some interesting purchases on a certain website, last weekend I was lucky enough to head off to the City of Norwich Aviation Museum for their Wings and Wheels Day, and I had a brilliant day there. The weather was fantastic. It was the kind of weather that Nev loves, where it was blooming hot.
Oh dear,
with lots of sun. And I got the chance to talk to quite a few people there, and big thanks to Carl Lake as well for sorting out all the interviews for me as well. He was very good. He was arranging things for me. He was doing a great job there. But I have to say, it was a brilliant day. It was on the Saturday and the Sunday, and I got the chance to go on some pretty cool aircraft there because they've got a fantastic display line up at the city.
So this is the museum that, I mean, I know it's been slightly reseated, isn't it? Some of it had already been moved, hadn't it, when we went before? But this was the site of our 100th episode, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, we broadcast our 100th show from their Avril Vulcan on the flight deck of that. But they've also got a pretty much 95% complete RAF Nimrod on site, which you can go on board. And it is very, very interesting indeed to go on board that aircraft. But we've got some interviews to play from that trip there that I did. We're going to pop a few in this week, and there'll be some more next week, hopefully. And we're going to look at this first one that I had a chat with Tom, who's the chairman of the City of Norwich Aviation Museum. And I will just say, before Matt hits that button, we were in a hangar that had a kind of a fabric material covering it, and it was very, very hot. So I'm here with Tom, and we are in quite a warm hangar here next to a few very iconic aircraft. Tom, welcome onto the show. It's good to see you. And Tom, what's your position here?
So I'm the chairman of the trustees at the museum. I've only done that now for about 18 months, so fairly new to the role, but I'm loving it, if I can say that.
So, Tom, how did you get into this? I mean, is there an aviation background?
So I myself, I'm an aircraft mechanic for KLM, but I started with museums when I was 16, my local aircraft museum, which was the North East Aircraft Museum at the time, and then I sort of just continued my obsession, I suppose, if you like, with older aircraft since then, and yeah, just continued it.
So what's your role here involved then? What do the position you have do? What the bits and pieces you do? Financing and exhibitions and stuff?
No, so the main thing of the chair is to ensure sort of compliance, health and safety, all the boring stuff, if you like, but the stuff which is needed to be done for the safety of our volunteers, the people visiting. Also, though, the more fun side of stuff is I get to go to different events and advertise the museum and obviously promote the squadron associations as well, which is something we really benefit from here up in Norwich, because there's a lot of squadrons that were based all over East Anglia.
So we're in this hangar, which, as I said, is quite warm, not going to lie. But what have we got in here?
So we've got a couple of Jags. We've got a Gulf War Veteran, which is 375 over there. We've got an F4 Phantom, which is in the lovely colour scheme you can see behind us. And then we've got a T2 Jaguar as well, which, again, these types were based at Coltishall. Not so much the Phantom, of course, but that is still relevant to the area with Wattisham and 74 Squadron.
And outside, we've obviously got the Vulcan, which is where we had our 100th live show quite a few years back now, when it was a lot colder, I'm not going to lie, than it is today. But you've got some great aircraft on display here, haven't you, outside? What are some of the big attractions here at Norwich?
The three big aircraft that we have really that are the main attractions are the Vulcan, Nimrod and RJ, but we do also have two airliners which are quite unique. We have the only F-27 on display in the UK, which is an ex-Air UK aircraft, and we also have a Herald, which there's not a lot of them around now. There's a couple. We think ours is, well, that is the longest one in a museum anywhere, and that again is an ex-Air UK aircraft, and that's very relevant to the area as well, having Norwich Airport with Air UK and Air Anglia that had them beforehand.
So you've got, obviously, this is kind of the new space for you because you moved not so long back. You've still got some space still. I see a few little bits where you could possibly pop some aircraft. Have you got any aircraft you'd love to get your hands on?
Yeah, we have a couple of aircraft that we're looking into at the moment. Obviously, there's a couple of relevant types to the area which we don't have at the moment, but that's going to be a lot of hard work to get some of those types, especially the Tornado, which I'm sure all of our visitors know we're desperately after. But they're not easy to get a hold of, I have to admit now.
When it goes to getting stuff like this, how easy is it to find? I mean, do you go to the Royal Air Force? Is it a kind of is there like some big scrapyard you can go to and pick up these aircraft, or do you have to beg?
A bit of everything, really. Sometimes we have someone email or turn up and say, I've got an aircraft we want to donate to you or put on loan, and although we try to stay away from loan items, if someone had something very rare, we'd take it on board. The Air Force RAF Heritage have been really, really helpful to us. They've been really kind in the generous donation of a couple of engines and other support we're receiving from them. Obviously, we'll talk to them in the future about acquiring new airframes. The CityJet, RJ85, which we got on site, we were donated that back in 2020. That was literally, you can have this basically. Either that or we're going to scrap it. And obviously we jumped at the chance, being an ex-Air UK aircraft as well, not that particular one, but the RJs in particular. We thought, yeah, we've got to have that in our collection, having a lot of ex-Air UK aircraft already. So, yeah, it's a bit of everything, to be honest.
Yeah, I went on board the RJ earlier on today, and I have to say, we were up in Scotland not so long back at the museum up there, the Museum of Flight, and they've got a Concorde there, and it is as if BA literally flew it in there, parked it up, and it's pristine. And that RJ you've got here, I have to say, is immaculate.
Well, we still with the RJ, we still keep a lot live on it, so hydraulics and electrics. We did have the APU running, but we haven't ran that for a while, so obviously safety-wise we can't run that now. We wanted to just make sure all the other services and that are kept live on it. But yeah, CityJet were really kind. KLM UK Engineering also gave us a lot of assistance getting that over here as well, and Norwich Airport, which we're really grateful for all that support. The crane and plank company we used, again, they were really helpful, so we did have a lot of goodwill on that, and Norfolk County Council as well for letting us close the NDR overnight. I have to admit that was something which I'll never forget, is having an RJ parked in the middle of a road overnight. That was brilliant.
Yeah, because you are, I mean, might be out here on the, there we go, on the microphone there. You are literally right next to one of the busiest roads outside Norwich.
Yeah, we are on the main ring road, which in some ways it's been detrimental because of the salt and everything over the winter on the aircraft isn't good. But on the other hand, we get good publicity and a lot of visitors past it. We've had people that have lived in Norwich or Norfolk all their lives, and they've said because of that road they've noticed we're here and they've come up. So yeah, it's a good idea really. I think for us, it's a good thing in the end.
How easy is it, Tom, to get volunteers? Because everyone here is a volunteer who looks after the air. Obviously, yourself volunteering here and doing the role you do. How easy is it to get volunteers?
I'll be honest, it's not easy. We've got a good set of volunteers. I'd say we've got on strength about 80 volunteers, but we've actually got about 20 or 30 that come up regular and get hands on. But you know, we appreciate all of our volunteers, even the ones that can't come up here and get hands on, and the ones that actually do more research and sort of home-based roles, and that, you know, there are the crux of the museum. They're what keep us running. But it is difficult trying to get younger people especially involved and more able people to come and help, because obviously they're busy, they've got their lives outside of work and play as well. So yeah, it's difficult, but if you want to help, come along and join, because we could really do with some more help, to be honest, as we're still expanding.
Yeah, we're going to put the links to the museum in the show notes for this episode, obviously. So if you are local to here to Norwich and you want to volunteer and help Tom and everyone here, you know, it's well worth. I think, you know, I'm seriously considering giving up one of my jobs so I could come and volunteer.
We'll hold you to that.
I love that, and they will hold you to that as well. I'm just saying there, Carlos, that they will absolutely hold you to that. It's on tape and everything.
I know, and yeah, Tom's doing a great job there, and they've got lots and lots of projects on the go at the museum, which will be opening hopefully sometime this year to the public as well. They've got so many different things they're planning on doing, and I have to say, for how much they charge to get into that museum, it is really, really well worth it. If you are in around Norwich, the city of Norwich here in East Anglia, if you get the chance to go to the museum, it is literally next door to Norwich International Airport. So it's well,
Norwich London, did you say?
Norwich
London Norwich, yeah, okay.
London Norwich Airport, exactly. So, moving on with the show, we have got some military news coming up next. But first, I know he's not here this week, but it's
he did check in, didn't he? He
did check in. It's safe to say Armando has put together some military stories for us this week, but he also has sent us in a little video.
Hey everybody, Armando checking in here. Any one of you that knows the tail numbers that I usually fly, that's the two Hawkers, the Pilatus, and this thing behind me, the Piper Cub. It's actually a Super Cruiser. We're starting to correct people on that. Knows that I've been incredibly busy, basically since school let out at the beginning of June. We've had one of our airplanes that's been down for maintenance for almost 6 weeks for a major inspection. So we've basically got one crew, one airplane covering both of our clients' locations, which has resulted in just a little bit more flying than I usually do. Therefore, I'm on call a lot. I've been traveling quite a bit. And on top of all that, I've got a family. So Maddie's out of school for the summer, and we've been doing nothing but awesome activities. Actually, she's been flying with me in the Super Cruiser here and there, and to fly-ins on Fridays and Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings, breakfasts. So my apologies for not being on the show live, but as much as I can, I will continue to check in and send in videos with, if nothing else, military stories, but the occasional commercial stories. I hope everybody's having a great summer. Miss the chat room, miss the hosts. We'll check in with you guys as the summer goes along.
Oh, that was good of him, wasn't it? Lovely to hear from Armando. Obviously, as you were saying there, it was nice to not see a sort of like a slick trail down the outside of the outside of the beautiful aircraft that is Armando's little cub.
I know. It's brought, seeing the cub behind Armando there, brought back visions of that slight little oil leak that we had when I was out there.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Very, very exciting.
Yeah.
But can we just make a point, actually, of saying a big thanks to Dirk and also to Nick, who have messaged the PTUK WhatsApp number. And Nick and Dirk have both found me links to various aircraft light or airfield lighting that I can purchase online. So thanks to you guys for that. I shall have a look at those later. And maybe when Gemma comes home from Cambridge on Sunday, she'll be able to find her way into the back garden. There we go.
Righty-ho.
Look at Nev.
I just wonder if you're going to pick up a set of pappies from somewhere.
Oh, my word.
Go the whole hog, yeah.
Sometimes she needs those when she's reversing the car and in the drive. Anyway, moving on to the military segment of the show.
Danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Moving on to the military segment of the show this week. Matt, if you're ready.
Yeah. You're going to need some kind of military protection, I think, now. Here we go.
Bogies 135, 50, Angel 16, heading 340. Okay. 100 Bogies.
So, kicking off the first story in the military segment this week from Flight Global, this one, and we talk on the show about non-stop flights with commercial airliners, but the Royal Air Force hails a 20-hour non-stop deployment as the A400M Atlas visits Guam. So the UK Air Force has performed the longest non-stop flight of an Airbus Defence and Space A400M, with one of its tactical transports having completed more than a 20-hour sortie. Conducted from RF Bryce Norton in Oxfordshire on the 3rd and 4th of July in support of the US-led exercise Mobility Guardian, the flight concluded with a touchdown at the US Air Force's Anderson Air Force Base on Guam. The Atlas underwent a total of 3 in-flight refuelings, the first over the Atlantic supported by UK-based Airbus A330 Voyager tanker, then over Alaska, and then the Pacific Ocean behind an example operating from Ellison Air Force Base in Alaska. Exercise Mobility Guardian is an outstanding training opportunity, says Air Commodore Anthony Lyle, the RAF's Air Mobility Force commander. The non-stop flight from RF Bryce Norton to Guam is a great example of our ability to project air power, allowing us to get aircraft and crews and vital equipment to the other side of the world in a timely manner and for them to be able to operate immediately. The Mobility Guardian exercise also involves assets deployed by Australia, Canada, France, Japan, and also New Zealand. The object of the exercise is for the countries involved to develop their interoperability skills and understanding, the RAF says. The RAF object of the exercise for the countries involved 22 A400Ms, with the Atlas now representing the service's lone tactical transport capability. The last Lockheed Martin C-130J left its operational use in late June, drawing to a close 57 years of the Hercules operations by the UK. So 20 hours, that's not bad for, mind you, with the refueling, mid-air refueling, I suppose that helps quite a bit. But Can you imagine a commercial airliner refueling mid-air on a 20-hour flight? That would be interesting. Wouldn't it? See a 777 with a refueling boom.
I don't think that would be allowed somehow.
No, I don't either, Matt. But, no. And actually, while we're on the subject of military, hello to Jonathan Warner, who's joined us in the chat room. He's joining us from over at RIAT, at the Royal International Air Tattoo, where he's poised with camera and about 600 million memory cards ready for the pictures that he's going to take this weekend. So,
and what have I got behind me? Because he took this today, I think. He was saying...
Yes. You have got an Apache, I think that is. An Apache AH-64
might be.
Behind you.
Yeah, might be.
Yeah, behind there. And, thanks to that, Mr. Warner. Great to
Indeed, yes. He did say that it had been a little damp.
A bit wet, yes.
Actually, another friend of the show, Dan Hannington, I don't know if you've seen on his socials, by the way. He's got a great video of the Prince and Princess of Wales with the children stepping out of, I think it was an A400 at RIAT there. A lovely little video, by the way.
Dan. We haven't heard from Dan for a long while, but he does take some great photos as well.
Indeed.
So we've got a story next from Armando, and this is coming to us all about the X-59.
Now this story from thedrive.com, a frontal view of the new X-59 reveals the details of its pilot vision system. That's provided in lieu of any forward-facing windows for the pilot. Now Lockheed Martin's latest photos of the experimental X-59 Quiet Supersonic Technology aircraft, or the Quest, is being built by the company's Skunkworks for NASA. It provides so far the best view of its radical forward vision system, as well as revealing the jet in an increasingly complete state. Now, the aircraft, which provides no traditional forward visibility for its pilot, a la Charles Lindbergh in The Spirit of St. Louis, is by far one of the most incredible looking and outright exotic flying machines that we've seen so far, with its side profile equally as impressive as the head-on view. Now, ultimately, it's planned that the X-59 will achieve supersonic speeds over land that create no more than a sonic thump, rather than the boom associated with previous supersonic transports, military aircraft. Now, it's been a long battle that has restricted commercial supersonic aircraft from being developed. Now, this revelation could convince U.S. and international regulators to change the laws governing supersonic commercial aviation, at least over land. Now, while we looked at the X-59's nose in the past, I think we had some pictures on the show, these new frontal views of the jet really bring across the fact that the pilot has no conventional means of looking at the outside world, at least in its forward sector. I do believe the aircraft has a T-38 canopy, so the pilot can actually see out the sides. Now, this is all part of an overall design that's specifically intended to reduce the kinds of sonic booms that have long been an obstacle for commercial supersonic flight over land. With such a long snout or nose cone, the X-59 pilot instead relies on what they're calling the External Vision System, or an XVS. It's an array of forward-facing high-resolution cameras, an aperture for the 4K camera used in the XVS can actually be seen in these new photos. It's located right atop the nose, broadly above where the canard, if you look at the, Matt's putting up the pictures, it's a canard configuration, right above where the canard foreplanes are located. The latest series of images shows that this NASA X-59 on the flight line at Lockheed Martin Skunk Works in Palmdale, California. On June 19th, a couple weeks ago, NASA said that the move from its construction site to the flight line is one of many milestones that are preparing the X-59 for its first and subsequent flights. Next up, this team will conduct significant ground tests to ensure that the aircraft is safe to fly. Now, Lockheed Martin also posted a new photo on Twitter this week explaining that the aircraft has been moved to a run stall, or one of those engine test bays, on the flight line there at Palmdale, California, for further ground testing. Now, this is going to include vibration testing. Now, the X-59 had previously been expected to fly before the end of 2022. I think that's when we talked about it, something 2021 or something like that. We talked about this airplane. but they actually missed that timeline, and it's now anticipated to take its first flight sometime before the end of this year. Now, after the initial flight tests, the all-important noise testing is going to begin, culminating in a planned series of missions that will explore how communities actually respond to the aircraft sound when it passes overhead. Now, kind of pulling from some military and some space technology, this XVS system, the forward view system in the X-59, this technology was actually tested for NASA's Beechcraft UC-12, it's King Air. This program involved installing hardware in the King Air's cabin that was wired to an external camera on the nose. Some live flight tests scenarios were flown to collect data on the pilot's ability to see and maneuver around other aircraft in the airspace. And during these tests, one pilot was seated in the cockpit of the King Air and could see through the window. I believe that was the left seat pilot, while the other pilot was seated in the right seat of the aircraft, using only the XVS available for external awareness. It is worth mentioning that another Skunkworks creation, the notional Dark Star hypersonic test jet that Pete Mitchell flew in Top Gun Maverick, also featured a similar configuration with no standard forward visibility and just a bunch of TV screens up there. So just another example of Hollywood turning into reality, or maybe Hollywood imitating reality. Anyway, pretty cool airplane.
I tell you what, it's worth saying, isn't it? If you're flying a aircraft such as a fighter jet like this X-59, if you haven't got any forward vision, it's safe to say that if you wanted to look forward, a 4K camera is probably going to be the best option to be able to see what is in front of you when you're flying the aircraft.
I mean, there's several things that frighten me in that statement there. One of which is no forward vision.
No forward vision. Yeah.
That is particularly alarming.
It's worth noting that Matt will obviously put the links to the show notes in the for links to the stories in the show notes. There's some great pictures on this particular story. If you get a chance to click on the link on the show notes, it takes you to thedrive.com. There are some really good photos of the X-59 on this site, so well worth a look if you get a chance. Next up, it's another one from Armando, and he's talking all about a very important show. Shush, Alexa, honestly. He's talking about a very important show that's currently happening over in RAF Fairford in Gloucestershire.
Never heard of it.
This next story is from Aviation Week from RAF Fairford, England. Embraer is looking to grab another slice of Europe's defense modernization plans with sales of the C-390 airlifter and the A-29 Super Tucano. Previously, the Brazilian manufacturer's European market presence was limited to sales of the Tucano basic trainer. It's a Zingu light transport and the AMX light combat aircraft that was developed with Italy back in the 1980s. Today, however, the company is making new inroads into the European region. So Portugal will soon take formal delivery of the first of its 5 C-390 Millennium airlifters, while the Netherlands is expected to sign contracts for that planned fleet of 5 aircraft by the end of the year. C-390 is also being purchased by Hungary, with Budapest's first aircraft in final assembly, and interest growing from other European nations, including Austria, the Czech Republic, and Sweden. Now, most of these nations want to use the C-390 to replace the elderly Lockheed Martin C-130s that pretty much dominate Europe's airlift scene. Now, at the same time, Embraer is also developing what it calls a NATO configuration of the A-29 Super Tucano. That is specifically aimed at European customers. The development work on this is conducted in Portugal. A gentleman named Bosco da Costa Jr., he's Embraer's Defense and Security President and CEO. He told Aviation Week's show news that at the recent Paris Air Show that they have a clear strategy to internationalize the Embraer Defense and Security and make the company even more of an international player. Now, countries have been attracted to the C-390 because it is the only airlifter developed in the 21st century. And Mr. DaCosta added that the Brazilian Air Force is seeing both availability and dispatch reliability figures more akin to that of the commercial world, which is way more attractive than, an elderly, as they call it, C-130. Now, Portugal has provided a useful test case for the C-390's introduction into Europe, with Embraer installing what it calls a NATO operations package. That includes a Link 16 data link that allows them to communicate with other aircraft, command and control, as well as ground troops, some military satellite navigation systems, new transponders, some encrypted radios. All this similar equipment is set to be installed in Hungary's 2 aircraft, and is actually envisioned for Netherlands' 5 aircraft also. Portugal has recently flown its first KC-390 equipped with Elbit-developed electronic warfare pods on the outer wing pylons, and Embraer is predicting a market of around 690 new airlifters worldwide. Company officials are not expecting large orders for the Super Tucano in Europe, but they do believe that the platform could offer useful capabilities for smaller air forces, as the aircraft can be used both for training and light attack, or pleasure if you're Armando Carrion and you just happen to get a couple $1 million. Anyway, Switzerland's Pilatus currently dominates the European turboprop trainer market, but types like its PC-21 cannot be used in a light attack mission. That limits them to a training role. The Super Tucano, therefore, could be more attractive as a multi-role platform. Portugal is likely to be an early customer for the Super Tucano, having identified a need for a close air support platform in its new military programming law approved last March. Other potential missions identified for the Super Tucano in Europe, at least, include joint terminal attack controller training. Those are the guys on the ground that are controlling the actual dropping of the bombs, and providing a lower cost platform compared to some of the fast jets and heavy maintenance jets. So again, Embraer, killing it. I don't know why. I love both of these aircraft.
Yeah. Now, I was hoping, as Jonathan Warner is currently obviously at RIAT doing his thing that he normally does there, that he would get some pictures. But unfortunately, Jonathan Warner has reported in the chat room that apparently none of the aircraft of which Armando was talking about are on show this weekend at RIAT.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Oh well. But as we were saying at the top of the show, I do hope the weather improves for everyone who's off to RIAT this weekend, because it is looking a bit damp, as to say, for this weekend. But fingers crossed it'll improve between now and tomorrow. Next up, another story from Armando, and this one is all about the C-121 Bataan.
Ooh.
If you guys remember all the way back to the early 200 episodes when I first came on the show, Carlos asked me what aircraft I would fly if given the chance, and I said the Lockheed Constellation. This is a Connie story. Back on June 20th, a couple weeks ago, the Air Legends Foundation's Lockheed C-121 Constellation took off on its first post-restoration flight from the Chino, California airport around 7:30 p.m. Now, this Connie's crew was composed of experienced warbird pilots and restorers, Captain Stuart Dawson, First Officer and Reno Air Racer Steve Hinton, Flight Engineer Jeff Weitzel, Safety Overseer J.D. Dale, and Safety Observer John Hinton, to make sure that the test flight was a success. Now, the constellation that came to be known as Bataan started life as a C-121 Alpha. That's a militarized version of the L-749 constellation. That was being delivered to the U.S. Air Force in January of 1949 for use within the newly established then Military Air Transport Service. Now, C-121As differed from their civilian counterparts because they had the addition of a reinforced floor for carrying cargo, an aft cargo door in the rear fuselage. In practice, however, the C-121As would usually fly as personnel transports and were fitted with a total of 44 seats. Now, during the Berlin aircraft, this particular aircraft, Bataan, serial number 48-613, was used to transport personnel and equipment from Westover Air Force Base in Massachusetts to Rhein-Main Air Force Base in, at the time, West Germany. With the conclusion of the Berlin airlift in September of 1949, 48-613, or Bataan, continued to perform routine missions until it was decided to convert the aircraft to become a VIP transport at Olmsted Air Force Base in Middletown, Pennsylvania. After that, it was flown to the Lockheed factory in Burbank, California. It was actually the first C-121 to be equipped with weather radar, and its engines were modified with turbines to recover the exhaust gases for use in the crankshaft to provide more power, so turbo-powered radial engines. From there, the aircraft was actually flown to Tokyo during the Korean War, where in September of 1950, it became the latest, at the time, transport for General Douglas MacArthur, who was the person who actually christened it the Bataan. He did that after the Bataan Peninsula in the Philippines, from which he had mounted his last defense of the archipelago against the Japanese invasion in 1942, until ordered by President Roosevelt to move to Australia. Now, in 1951, Bataan flew MacArthur and his family back to the United States, marking the first time that actually General MacArthur had returned to the continental U.S. since he arrived in the Philippines as a military advisor all the way back in 1935. Now, this aircraft would serve in the Pacific Air Command until it was retired from active duty in 1965. It was then flown to the Boneyard at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in January of 1966. Unlike many of her brethren, though, Bataan's time in the Boneyard was not the final page in her story. Just 6 months later, that aircraft became one of 3 constellations employed by NASA for the Apollo space program, becoming NASA 422. Now, its VIP interior was then swapped for scientific instruments, but retaining the original Bataan nose art, including a depiction of the peninsula and the flags of the countries that it had visited. So, though it was typically based out of Baltimore Friendship Airport, now it's called Baltimore Washington International Airport, the NASA constellations were under the authority of the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. Now, these 3 constellations would fly across the oceans to monitor and communicate with Apollo astronauts during their monumental missions. But with the minimization of funding and interest after the success of Apollo 11, the NASA constellations were actually decommissioned in 1970. So, 23 years later, after being on the ground on June 23, 1993, Bataan roared back into the air after using nearly the entire length of the runway. There were actually concerns over the flight that trees at the end of the runway were cut down and the fence at the end of the runway was actually removed. Now, the flight went over smoothly and ended up at the Dothan, Alabama airport, where I go to regularly, where a company called Pemco Aeroplex stripped off the NASA paint scheme, painted Bataan back to the way that it appeared as General MacArthur's transport. Pending some successful test flights, everyone hopes that Bataan will now make its post-restoration appearance at EAA AirVenture this month, 2023, in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. After that, the Lewis Air Legends hopes to fly Bataan on the air show circuit, considering that the already impressive Air Legends Foundation's belt from the last airworthy Douglas A-20 Havoc, P-38F Lightning, that's Glacier Girl. It seems that if they work this all out, Bataan will be in good company on the air show circuit, and I can't wait to see it in person.
No, I bet it's a beautiful aircraft, isn't it?
Yeah. We're going to say a big thanks as well before we forget to Armando for putting together all the military videos for this week. Thanks for putting those together. We all appreciate it, especially Nev.
Yes. Means I haven't got to do any work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
More because he knows his subject matter, doesn't he?
He does,
and that does make all the difference. I mean, we'll read out the story, and then we're unable to comment.
And that's why we have our very own Armando.
We do. Absolutely. We're very, very lucky. We are very lucky.
We are very lucky. Yeah. So thanks again, Armando, and he'll hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll be back on the show next week in his live form. Fingers crossed. Next up, it's another interview that I took last Saturday at the City of Norwich Aviation Museum, Wings and Wheels Day. And another one of the aircraft that they've got on static display there is an Air UK Handley Page Herald, which took me back a few years. Blimey, that's some serious engineering on this aircraft. But I got a chance to have a chat with Derek, who used to be a chairman at the museum, but is now a very hands-on volunteer. And here we go. So you join me at the City of Norwich Aviation Museum. I'm here with Derek. Derek, welcome onto the show.
Hello there.
So Derek, what's your role here at the museum?
Well, I'm the vice chairman. I was the chairman for many years, 28 years. I was one of the founder members, and I'm the longest serving member.
How many years, Derek?
43.
43 years. So, so you've kind of been sort of caretaker, looking after the museum. Is that right? Sort of to say your role has been looking after all the ins and outs.
Well, not really. It's a team. It's a team organisation, and there have been many really great volunteers have been with us over the years, building what we have here. So, some of them sadly no longer with us. In the early days, we had war veterans on board, and they're all gone now. But we have a healthy youth element, and we're trying to develop that to give the museum a future going forward.
So you've got a lot of static aircraft on display. You've got the Nimrod just across from behind us where we are, and obviously we've got this amazing aircraft here, the 146, which is great to see here. But what's this behind you, Derek? What are you in charge of today?
Well, I've been cajoled into having the Herald here open to the public, the famous Handley Page Herald. It was a competitor of the Fokker F-27 that we have here too. Not quite as successful. It was originally designed to have 4 Leonidas major radial engines, and then when Handley Page saw that Fokker had stolen the march on them with the gas turbine Dart, they decided to redesign it. So they had to redesign the whole wing from 4 radial engines to 2 Darts. And by the time they'd done that, Fokker had won all the sales, and only 50 of these were ever built. Sad, but there you go.
But you're lucky to have one here. There's obviously not a great deal of these left, I suppose, Derek, in the world, in the museum world.
No, there are only 3 left now in full airline trim. There's one at Woodley and one at Moravia up in Scotland, and this one is widely regarded as being the most complete, and we're very proud to have it here because they had quite a history of flying out of Norwich, particularly to the Channel Islands.
So Derek, bit about your past. Have you got an aviation background, or have you just kind of you got into the museum world here at Norwich, or did you have any sort of flying background or anything?
No, flying makes my arms ache. I'm a carpenter and a builder, and my dad used to take me to air shows from when I was about 6 years old, and I've just had a lifelong interest.
I have to ask Derek, with so many aircraft here on site at Norwich, at the museum here, have you got a personal favourite, or can you not say, because you might upset some of the team?
No, I don't really. This is the truth. I don't really have a favourite. I just love aeroplanes. If I've got a favourite aeroplane, it's probably the Lockheed Constellation, but we don't have one of those.
You don't. You'd love to have one here. I was going to say, have you got the space to fit one in here, Derek? Because you've got a large amount of aircraft here, but I did notice you've got a little bit more space, I think, down the bottom there where the GA aircraft are.
Yeah, well, the thing that's the top of our wish list is a Tornado, and we're working very hard on that, but they're becoming more and more scarce at the moment, so fingers crossed for future.
So, Derek, obviously you've been doing this for a number of years. What's the sort of plan? You're going to just continue to do this for as long as you possibly can, stand here and work at the museum?
Yeah, they'll probably carry me out of here in a box.
So, Derek, we always ask, when we talk to people on the show, we always ask a question that's a kind of, put you on the spot, $1 million question. If you were given the chance today just to nip over just across the NDR here at Norwich and fly any aircraft you wanted to out of here, be it GA, commercial, military, retired, still flying, or any aircraft, what would you love to go over there now and jump into and fly out of Norwich?
I'd love to have a play in an A-10.
The A10 tank buster.
Yeah.
Fun enough, I was literally just the other day at Bentwaters, where the A10 was based here in Suffolk. But so the A10, that's one we haven't had before on the show. I'm not going to lie, Derek.
No, it's just I just find it a fascinating airplane. I remember well when they were at Bentwaters, and I was actually on my way down to Orford to collect some bricks for, near Orford. I can't think of the name of the place. Collect some bricks for a brickworks, and I had a bright blue van, same colour as this Herald. The code is RAL 5010, by the way. But these two A10s saw my van travelling in open country along this long straight road, and I was attacked from all directions. I'm glad they were only practising and didn't have any bullets. It could have been very nasty, and my van would have been a colander, I'm sure.
That'd have been good to see. Did you see that?
That's my one abiding memory of the A10, really.
Yeah, it was a very iconic aircraft, I think, when it was based here. But no, nice to see. But thanks, Derek, for coming on the show to talk to us, and it's been nice to speak to you today, and also lovely to stand here next to the aircraft as well. For the benefit of all the listeners and viewers who may be local in the area who haven't been here and who want to volunteer, like a lot of you do volunteer here, how can they go about coming to the museum and volunteering time?
Yeah, well, volunteering is on a membership basis, and they have to be covered by insurance. The membership fee is £15 a year. Just turn up at the museum, see the lady on the desk, she'll give you a form to fill in. It's that simple. As for what there is to do, you can imagine there are many different jobs to do running an aviation museum. There's all the aircraft to look after, the grounds, there's grass to cut, everything. You name it, we have to do it. And there's always something you can find that'll suit you. People of all abilities come here, you don't have to be skilled. There's plenty to help out with, even if it's just talking to the visitors about the aeroplanes. And we welcome volunteers of all ages, and we do what we call work parties every Tuesday evening, when we can get on with stuff that we can't do when the place is open to visitors. So if you can't get up during the week, come on a Tuesday evening and see us.
There you go. We'll put the links to the museum in the show notes for this episode of the show, so people can come up here and see what it's about. Because we have a lot of listeners who are kind of based in and around East Anglia, so it's well worth a visit here. So here we are, Wings and Wheels Day here at City of Norwich Aviation Museum. Thanks, Derek, for your time today. It's been nice to chat to you, and you've picked a great day for the show. I'm not going to lie, it's really great. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Big thanks to Derek and all the team at the museum. It was a great day. More to come on that hopefully next week on the show, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Up next, it is time for it's time for our Caption This competition we run every Wednesday. We put the picture on our Facebook page and ask you to leave your wittiest captions on. Matt's going to pop it up on the screen. And for the benefit of you watching, or listening, I should say, on the audio podcast, the picture this week, well, it was a bit of a stealth picture, wouldn't you say, Nev?
Yes. There's it looks like a sort of a parts bin for an aircraft, doesn't it? There's the ladder and the undercarriage, all the undercarriage wheels and tyres are there, but no other aircraft.
For those of you who like your Star Trek, this is kind of like the Klingon version of a fighter jet with a cloak engaged. There we go. Kicking off, Nicholas said, thanks for this one, Nick. This time Carlos's aircraft parts collection had gone a step too far. Thank you for that one.
Sue, who is somebody I know, actually.
Oh, is it?
She says, "You've heard of the Emperor's New Clothes?"
The Emperor's New Wheels, yes.
Emperor's New Wheels, yeah. Matt, do you want the next one?
No, sorry, wrong screen. Sorry.
Okay.
Too much going on.
Richard says Goodyear lags behind the latest stealth technology. Very good.
Richard, I don't know if it's the same Richard or another one, but he says the F-35 kids went too far when burying Dad on beach.
Yes, very good. And Dirk says current development status of viable supersonic passenger aircraft brought to real life display. And we've got some ones in the chat room. Richard Adams says cloak jet. Very good, very good. Arnie says he saw a stealth aircraft like this at the CAFB air show. What would that be?
Okay.
Was that be Californian?
Yeah, or Canadian Air Force Base show.
Don't know.
Yeah, Captain Ridiculous Wits says the new jet we built is so fast even the wheels can't keep up.
Right, okay, yeah.
But yes, for those of you who commented, thanks for your comments this week. We'll run another one next week on the show, so keep your eyes peeled to our social media on Facebook for next Wednesday, and I'll pop another amusing picture up for you to comment on.
Indeed.
So thanks for that. Moving swiftly on, as we've got still got a little bit to do before we wrap up.
Yeah,
Nev,
running out of time. Yeah.
You've got the book competition. Nev, even. What's going on with the book competition this week, Nev?
Yes, we didn't run a book competition last week due to all sorts of reasons, but it's back this week, and we are offering this book here from Grub Street Publishing called The Fleet Air Arm Boys. This is actually volume 4 by Steve Bond, a lifetime of reminiscences from the flight deck, and it's 280 odd pages, and it's quite a hefty volume actually. This one. There's also volumes 1 to 3, which we don't have, but we do have volume 4. And I was reading a little bit of it earlier on. I was fascinated by some of the stuff that's in there. So this week's question is, bearing in mind it's RIAT week this week, the question is, where and when did the first Royal International Air Tattoo take place? Where and when did the first Royal International Air Tattoo take place? Your answers, please, to podcast@planetalkinguk.com, and we shall read out or select a winner from the hat on next week's show. That question again, where and when did the first Royal International Air Tattoo take place?
There we go. Answers via email, please, to the question, as Nev said there. And next week, you could be the proud owner of that book. Fingers crossed. So more on that next week on the show. So make sure you tune in. Going to take a quick look at social medias then before we wrap up the show. Don't forget you can find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Look for
and also Threads, by the way,
UK.
If you're into that.
And Threads, whatever the hell that is.
What do you mean, whatever? Honestly.
I'm not getting another app. I've got way too many apps. Anyway, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, or WhatsApp number, which I have on this phone here. If you send a WhatsApp to me, as Dirk did and also Nick did during the show tonight, is +44 757 22 491 66. Email the show, so email your answers to the book quiz, or you can email us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. It's podcast@planetalkinguk.com. That's podcast@planetalkinguk.com. We'd love to hear from you. Also, don't forget to check out our website, allthews.planetalkinguk.com. On there, you'll find out more about us as the team. You'll also find on there our shop as well, where you can purchase yourself a PTUK t-shirt, and you can also get yourself a PTUK mug and a military grey mug as well, if you want one of those. I know Jonathan Warner has taken his to RIAT this weekend, weekend. He sent a picture of his mug proudly on display at his post there near the runway at RIAT. So thanks for that, Mr. Warner. Get yourself a mug on there. You'll also find on our website all the links to Patreon and PayPal if you want to become a Patreon or PayPal donator of the show. It is very much appreciated by us as a team because it helps us to bring out the content to you each week as we do, along with all our air show commentary and interviews that we do as well. It all helps to push that along. So big thanks to everyone who is a Patreon and PayPal donator. And that is about it, guys and girls, for the show. Quick, Nev, what are you up to next week? Boom.
A bit of travelling around in the United Kingdom. Peterborough, I think, on Monday, and London on Tuesday, and some other bits and pieces. No flying this week, but yeah, quite busy at work at the moment, so rather full on, I'm pleased to say.
And Mr. Smith?
I don't know, actually. I haven't got a lot yet. I mean, go and pick Mum up on Monday, obviously. But yeah, I was outside broadcast tomorrow afternoon. Obviously, radio as normal, same as you. But yeah, so a nice chilled weekend, hopefully, all being well.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Good. Yes, I'll be on the radio tomorrow at 10 o'clock, after Matt, when he finishes his breakfast show. And tomorrow evening, I shall be partaking in a barbecue with beer.
Oh, dear.
So I'm looking forward to that very much indeed.
Oh, dear.
So that is all we've got time for. Episode 406. God, blimey, guys. 464. Where did they all go? Don't forget to join us next week on the show. We'll be back at 7 o'clock next Friday night here on YouTube with all the latest news and events from the aviation world. So on that note, have a great weekend, whatever you're up to, and stay safe, and we'll see you all next week on the show. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. Say goodbye.
See you. Bye.